Hutchinson backs up Dan Campbell. Davenport was the right choice. Let's hear what he has to say.
How does it feel? We had him on earlier in the show to look out there and see 97, Aiden Hutchinson running around playing football again after losing him for much of last season with an injury.
Well, that in itself feels really good. You talk about a sight for sore eyes. And then just when you think you can't feel any better, you see Davenport on the other side. And I know it's only 3 days, but boy, he looks good too. But to be able to get Hutch back, he looks confident. He looks healthy. He actually looks like he's been even better than last year. And I know he's hungry. He's going to be hungry all the time. Sure. But, you get a different perspective when the game is taken away from you for injury for a year. And, if you thought you had drive before, it really puts the drive in you. So that's where Hutch is at. He's a pro. He's ready to go.
And we asked Hutch about it, and you just brought up his name as Marcus Davenport. And I was joking with Brad Holmes earlier. The talk is, edge rusher. They need edge rusher. Maybe he's here. Maybe it is Marcus Davenport. Maybe it is other guys stepping up too, but a little bit on Davenport because this guy was a high draft pick for a reason. This guy's been around the league, and here he is on your team, and maybe he's a name that nobody's talking about enough.
Yeah, no doubt. And, we I've known Davenport a while now. We got him in New Orleans. Yep. We drafted him. And here's what I do know, and I think we all know this. And it's not always in your hands, and that's that's the name of the game, and that's circumstances. That's the way it goes. But if he does stay healthy, oh yeah, he can do it. There's no question. He's going to give us everything we're looking for, and then some on the other side of Hutch. So. What I know is he's put everything into coming back, being stronger, being more stable, do everything he can to reduce that risk of injury. Look, and injuries happen all the time, but if it does, it does. But I love where he's at. We're fired up. I think our defense looks really good. There again, we're not in pads, but I like where we're at day 3.
Dan Campbell says, oh yeah, if Marcus Davenport can stay healthy, he can do it. And I believe it. We saw it, right? We seen it last year. I know that you guys have heard me say it time and time again that what I witnessed in the first couple of games with Aiden Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport, in the same game together, man, I just thought that was a beautiful thing. I thought the way that they bounced off each other, the way that they fed off each other, I thought it was working. I mean, there's a reason why Aiden got into the backfield 7.5 times in 5 games, partly because of him, right? But it's also because the defensive line was working so well together. And it just doesn't work well just because of one person, right? It takes both guys. That also takes a really good interior defensive line. So believe in what these guys are telling you. They're not just blowing smoke, right? They're not just trying to fill your head full of things because they feel like that's cool or they need to sell you on something. They don't. They honestly could care less what we think. They don't care what the fans think. I mean, of course they want us to appreciate what they're doing and to be excited about the team. But they built the football team for this, this exact way, for this exact reason, because they know it should work. They brought in the right guys. But just like Dan said, man, it's out of your control. Injuries happen, right? It's not his fault. And the injury wasn't his fault. All right, let's take a listen now to what Brad Holmes had to say, and then we'll finish up with Aiden Hutchinson.
You can't just find edge rushers out there, and the market has increased about $5 million thanks to Myles Garrett.
Yes.
And
yes.
But you've got this Marcus Davenport, who's he was a high draft pick. This kid is a young player on the come, and maybe touch on him a little bit.
Yeah, no, Marcus.
And Aiden's health.
Yeah,
update.
And Marcus actually, because I know the whole thing is, well, who's on the other side of Aiden? Who's on the other side? Marcus is the perfect person to have on the other side of Aiden in terms of his ability, how he plays the game, his length, how he can push the pocket. He's a good athlete. He's powerful. He's stout. All those makings. He has that. He just has luck on the health front. So hopefully that better luck is on his side. But he looked great in OTAs. He's looked great out here. And then having Aiden back, which I didn't really. You don't have a crystal ball. You don't know for sure. But I just, as much as I've been following Aiden since his early days at Michigan, he suffered a major injury then, came back, let's say, even better player. You could argue. I'm not surprised of how he attacked his rehab, and he looks amazing right now. So it looks good so far.
When you look at that group, Brad, you were up there in terms of pressures last year.
Yep.
Is there a next step in terms of getting that quarterback on the ground more often? Is that an important thing for your team?
Yeah, it's important. I mean, obviously, you want to just finish and get home and get the sack, but pressures, I'm not going to say that they're equally as important, but it's pretty darn close, just because when you're affecting the pocket and you're making it muddled and chaotic and uncomfortable, you can have obviously you could argue that you could have more turnovers just from more of a chaotic, disrupted, condensed pocket versus just getting a sack. But obviously you want guys that can finish, get home, and get sacks. But the pressure served us well.
And you can get turnovers when you have a guy on the back end of your defense like Kirby Joseph.
Yeah.
Here's what Brad said, man. Number one, he thinks that Marcus Davenport was the perfect mix to bring in, obviously with this defense and Aiden, that he's a perfect blend of ability, length, his style. He's just had a little bit of bad luck on the health front. And I know it clipped out there for a little bit, but that's the best audio that XM Radio gave us. He looked great in OTAs and early in training camp. We've heard, for 2 days now with Davenport just blowing it up. I mean, outside of the small injury that he suffered, just blowing it up in camp, going nuts. I think that what we're seeing this early is what we're going to see just like we did last year in the first couple of games. He's going to do his job. He's going to crush the can. He's going to push the pocket. He's going to eat a couple of gaps. He's going to take care of the run game. He's definitely going to settle his edge. He may not be, like he says, he's more rigid and Aiden is more bendy, right? That's just not his style of game, right? He's a totally different style of an end. So then he spoke about Aiden for a moment, which was a good piece of news, that Brad has seen Aiden and he's looking great. He says he's looking good. And here's the key thing that I took out of this. And I couldn't tell if he was saying this for Marcus Davenport's, for a perspective of what he's having to go through, which is he suffered a major injury in college and came back. Well, he's doing it again. And he's come back a better player. And Brad thinks he's going to come back a better player this year. But think about that for a moment in the context of Marcus Davenport. Marcus Davenport has suffered a major injury for the last 2 seasons. He battled his way back. He was looking good last year. And then it happens again. He's battled his way back again, and he already looks great. So the last thing that Brad said, and I guess that gives me a ton of confidence. I mean, I've always known, at least in my own mind, that Marcus Davenport was going to be a great fit for this team. More turnovers from chaos and pressures versus just a sack. Again, I'm glad that Brad has validated, my takes, even though he has probably no clue that I've said this stuff, that I've always valued the TFLs more than a sack. I've always valued having a good back end mixed with a good front end so that you get coverage sacks, you get more time to do your business, but now you can start to pop those balls out when you have some freedom, right? And that's what we're starting to see with this defense, and that's what we're hoping to see with this defense, as Calvin Shepard let us know this morning, that their biggest goal this year is popping out the football. The last part of this segment is Aiden Hutchinson. I know a lot of you love this dude. What he says is gospel to everybody, right? Well, let's hear what he says about Marcus Davenport.
Well, it's been a long road of rehab, and I remember reading a story back in the OTAs where Coach Shepard said, every player has their mannerisms, things that they do in practice, and Shepard said, well, that's when I kind of knew he was back. He was having the same type of mannerisms. What about for you personally, when you cross that bridge as a player, where you're like, oh yeah, I feel good, I'm confident, I'm where I need to be?
Yeah, day one of OTAs, I got stepped on, kicked. You think everything under the sun. And the day after I was pretty sore, but it was going through that day and getting it was the most freak things too you could think of that were it was weird. But I really do believe that it was that day happening. You're like, I'm good. Sometimes you need those moments where, you're coming back from an injury and things get hit and then you get up and you're like, oh, I'm all right now. And it's a psychological thing, So I think OTAs was a big thing with that psychologically. And now that we're in camp, it's we're full steam ahead.
Well, I know it killed you to be out last year, and everybody towards the end of the year, pass rush.
Right.
Detroit needs more pass rush. Here, the offseason, we're interviewing your general manager. Everybody's talking about pass rush. You may have some guys here. And one guy may be Marcus Davenport.
Right.
Maybe a little bit on him. Could be playing opposite you this year. And just tell us about that room. That room is so
great.
critical.
Once we get Aleem healthy and him back, fortunately Levi's going to be out. But once we get Aleem back, Tyleek's coming along. Ahmed's coming along. But having Marcus on the other side of me is really. When we were playing those first 3 games last year together, or 4 games, whatever it was before he got hurt. It was when I saw him on the other side of me, I had this confidence that, when you see another rush over there, hey, if I'm not getting there, this rep, he is, And I think I was watching him in camp, he's such a great athlete, such a great football player, and I'm going to try to give him as many holistic approaches as I can to keep him healthy this year, and we're praying for longevity in the D-line room, and it's going to be a fun year.
I don't even have to say it, man. Your Honor, I rest my case. Aiden Hutchinson's the best attorney of them all. He just sold you guys the hook, line, and sinker about Marcus Davenport. So if you don't believe, or if you didn't believe then, you better believe now. Here's what he said. Let's recap it. One, the first part of this conversation, again, it goes back to something that I've felt about players, that when they have major injuries and they come back, that look, they're just not the same, at least right away. Jameson Williams, for instance, he pops into my head that when he came back in his first season, it really wasn't until that next year that he caught a pass at or near the sideline about 12, 13 yards down the field. And when he came down, he hyperextended both of his legs, and you could just see the eyes wide open moment, the oh shit moment, and he's wondering if he's hurt. And he army crawls off to the side, and then you seen him jogging up and down, and he was good. And I think it was at that moment that Jameson knew, I'm fine. I can play the game now. Right? And this is something that I've known, right? It's something that I've shared with you guys, that this is how I feel, these players deal with it. This is how they learn that they're good to go. They can play again. They can be themselves again, to get it out of the head, right, and back onto the field. So he said the same thing. He got stepped and kicked on in early in OTAs and that. He felt good, after getting freak things happening. He felt fine, but it was the same thing. He's like, man, I'm good now. I just had to get it out of my head. It was a psychological thing, which is what he said. But talking about Davenport, man, you can hear it. He's super excited about the entire defense. He can't wait to get Aleem back, right? He's saying that Tyleek Williams is finally coming along. Ahmed's coming along. And just a few weeks ago, when he had a press conference or an interview, he was saying he didn't know what Tyleek was because they haven't been, really into camp, together yet. But now he's getting a glimpse at what Tyleek is. And, man, Tyleek is coming, along very quickly. We're hearing really good stories about Tyleek. So he goes on to say that playing those first games with Marcus Davenport last year, he couldn't remember if he played 3 or 4 games. I think it is so hilarious when these guys talk about the schedule or a period of games. They have no clue. It's all a blur to them, right? And he says he had confidence looking down the line, and seeing another rusher and saying, man, I knew that if I couldn't get there, he's going to get there. Why? Because he's a good football player and he's a good athlete and he has the confidence and the trust in what they built, during their time together leading up to those games. Same thing this year. Same exact thing, except this time Aiden, is coming back from an extremely bad injury. He's fought his way back. That's going to give Marcus Davenport, I think, even more purpose to know that both of these guys are battling back together. They're both coming back from some pretty crappy, situations. So I'm super excited about all of them. But this segment, Dan, Brad, Aiden, they're all saying something a little bit different, but yet they're all saying the same thing, that Marcus Davenport was the right choice, and Aiden Hutchinson is happy that he's on the team.